Healthy churches and schools don't just happen by accident. They are cultivated. Welcome to the Cultivate podcast, where we have conversations about what it means to build spiritually thriving churches and schools with flourishing faith that care for their communities and inspire people to grow in Christ and share Christ's life. I'm John Cress, the president of the Southern California Conference, and I'm glad you've joined us as we continue this important conversation around our mission to exalt Christ by cultivating healthy churches and schools. Today I'm joined with David Zaid, who serves as assistant superintendent in a local public school district. He is also the senior pastor of the Philadelphian Seventh-day Adventist Church in Long Beach, California. David, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. This is exciting.
It is exciting to talk about the subject of leadership, empowering leadership.
Absolutely.
But before we get into it, I kind of want people to kind of connect with you a little bit more and understand where you come from. You're a superintendent and assistant superintendent, and you're also a pastor of a local church. Those are two roles that come together from two different worlds. How has that shaped your leadership?
That is a great question. I am bivocational, and when I think of what I've learned about leadership and how it has shaped me, what I would share is both the experience in education as well as ministry really comes down to working with people, ministering to people, listening to people, creating space for collective problem solving. And so there are a few things that I'll say transfer over from teaching to praying to showing up at a variety of schools and taking moment to just connect with God before even walking out, to showing up in the church parking lot and taking a moment to connect with God before stepping out. So there are a few things that transfer over, but the common thread is loving people, serving people, and understanding that our greatest gift can be empowering other leaders.
Interesting, because I've heard it's been said that 80% of success is people.
Yes.
Your relationship with people. The other 20% is everything else.
Right. 100. If you can develop the skill of working with people, listening to people, and turning that listening into collective action, you're onto something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For sure.
Hey, tell me, is there a leader that kind of came into your life or something that really influenced you over time?
So there are, I would say, definitely several leaders from pastors that I had the opportunity to grow up under. One being one of our vice presidents, Pastor James Lee.
Oh, yeah.
There are several pastors and mentors and even civil rights figures that have inspired me. But what inspires me most are the faithfulness of many of our deaconess and our deacons who show up, and other ministry leaders, but who show up without applause, without recognition.
Yeah.
They show up on Friday night to make sure that the communion is just right. They show up after everyone is gone to rearrange tables and make sure that the sanctuary represents excellence. And there's something about that showing up that just inspires me to be a servant leader, just like each of them.
It kind of reminds me of children's ministry.
Yeah.
The leaders in children's ministry, they show up.
100%.
And what a difference they make.
Yes. They always make us say, we have got to do something special for our ministry leaders. But that faithfulness to serve, and to not just serve, but find joy in it is amazing to see and be inspired by.
So what point in your leadership did a shift happen between, you first get into ministry, you got tasks to do and outcomes to reach. Was there a point where your leadership changed from leading towards an outcome or leading just for something you wanted to get out of it to developing people?
There is. So I'm in a unique situation, as you know, that I pastor at the church that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark chapter 6, verse 4, Jesus is very clear that a prophet is going to be without honor in their own home, in their own town, and in their own church. So a shift for me was, one, having the honor to first serve in this capacity as pastor, and then making the shift that this is not going to be about recognition. This is not going to be about seeking honor or chasing honor. This is only going to be about service, and this is only going to be about team ministry. Understanding that our church is not going to be successful or healthy based on one of us, but it's going to be healthy based on all of us. And that investment in people, in leadership, in being strategic is the shift that caused me to never worry about recognition or honor, but to only worry about, am I serving? And am I willing to serve no matter how small or how great? And knowing that one day recognition or acknowledgement may tap you on the shoulder, but that's certainly not going to be our aim.
Yeah.
And that shift is critical as it relates to humility and love and being willing to show up every day and just serve.
Yeah. I like that shift because I think that shift kind of brings us to our point of here today, which is empowering leadership.
Yes.
One of the things about it, we said one of the characteristics out of the 8 characteristics of a healthy church is empowering leadership. And that's what we're talking about today. And
absolutely.
And what does that really mean to you? What does it mean to be an empowering leader?
So when I hear that word empowering leader, it immediately means to me cultivating and inspiring people to really step into their purpose. A transformative moment in my life is when I was asked about God's purpose in my life. It caused some reflection. It caused me to do some soul searching. And the way that shows up practically in our churches is doing spiritual gifts surveys, encouraging individuals to walk in those gifts, creating opportunities to really empower, and doing things as a leadership team. Asking ourselves, where are we competing and where are we complementing when we look at how we're scheduling ministry? Are we working together or are we separated? Are we busy or are we impactful? Those are all the things that really speak to the notion of empowering individuals and creating systems and structures for us to serve as a team.
Yeah, I like that word team because so much more can be done as a team. But you have to empower team leaders to do their part and give them some room, don't you?
Agreed.
That's a lot different from a personality-driven leadership to a functional, people-driven, empowering leadership style.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So when we think about empowering leadership, we're trying to get to the point where a church becomes healthy and functional. Why do you think healthy churches have to have it?
Yeah.
They have to have this.
They do. And when I think of healthy churches, I think of churches that develop people. Health comes from teams and teamwork and shared purpose. This almost sometimes makes me take a page out of the sports world. Here's the question that we ask of basketball teams and football teams, and that is this. Is the name on the front more important than the name on the back?
There you go.
Is it more important for us to win, or is it important that I just have the ball in my hand in this moment? And when we begin to recognize that Christ says, if he be lifted up, he'll draw. And then if we begin to understand that working as a team is more important than me working individually. And I say this whether it's working as a church, or even working with relationships? Am I more interested in my own voice, or am I interested in the voice of the collective?
Yeah.
Is it the tune of my own instrument or the sound of the orchestra?
Yeah.
No matter which illustration we use, sometimes we get stuck and we become unhealthy because the name on the back becomes bigger than the name on the front.
Yeah.
And I come to the table trying to make a point as opposed to coming to the table to bring about collective problem solving.
I like that. It's that's good. That's a good message for pastors too,
Oh,
not just for members.
yeah, for sure.
If you're the leader, I think of basketball, the guard comes down and he kind of sees what's happening
Right.
better than any other team player.
Yes.
He has to be able to direct the team.
Yes.
But if he always shoots the shot,
Yes.
he's failing to do his job.
Yeah. One of my good friends is a basketball coach, and I was taking some lessons from him. And this relates exactly to what you're saying. He took a defensive player, and he was helping them move into the guard position.
Okay.
And when the person was at practice, he said, what I need to do is adjust your posture. In that defensive position, you're down low,
Right.
trying to get your eye on the ball. But when you're the guard and you come down, you have to stand up straight and tall so that you can see where individuals are and who you need to pass the ball to.
Yep.
And just fixing our posture can change everything.
That's great.
And sometimes...
What is the posture of leadership?
Sometimes...
That could be a book.
Yeah, sometimes we either need to stand up a little taller so we can see clear, or sometimes we need to shift our posture to being down on our knees.
That's good.
But one of those changes is our posture.
Yeah. Jesus talks about a leader being a shepherd,
Yes.
not domineering, And,
Yeah.
and one person told me once for a shepherd, it says, a shepherd is in the midst of the sheep.
Yeah.
So the good shepherds will smell like sheep.
100%.
So you really get in there. And
Yeah. That's what matters most. I'm just going to pivot for a moment to just share something practical that created a huge shift at our church. And that is the way in which I know this is going to be a hot topic, but it's the way we were doing board meetings.
Okay.
And so we were doing board meetings in a way where...
Don't open the church manual.
Yes. We were doing board meetings in a way that we'll just say wasn't functional and wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And so what we began to realize is that we needed to separate a little bit our fiduciary team from our ministry team. And our fiduciary team was there to empower the ministry and to help make the ministry happen. But our ministry team was really there to talk about ministry. And what we decided to do was to not only separate our ministry team into a separate time frame where they could be meeting, but we began to incorporate leadership lessons into that. So when our ministries would get together, our devotion would always be about leadership, because sometimes leadership skills are assumed that we come to the table with, but it's that intentionality. And so I'll never forget when Elder Chris Jordan led one of those leadership lessons, and he started off with doing a compare and contrast between a battleship and a cruise ship.
Yes.
And began to share, are we more like this cruise ship where a few people are working and the rest are lounging around? Or are we like this battleship where every person has a role?
Station.
Yes. And so that way of really being intentional with our ministry leaders and recognizing where we were a little isolated and individuals were thinking more about their ministry or their ministry day than they were complementing other ministries. That's where we really began to lean in what it looks like to support the church's effort to complement other ministries and to exercise leadership skills. And that's when we think of empowering, cultivating, creating structures for that cultivation of leadership. That's one of the spaces that helped shift things and helped shift from thinking like my way or domineering to our and the collective.
Well, part of what I like what you said is when you think about it, when you bring a board to the table,
Yeah.
you don't have all the leaders, but you have some of the most impactful leaders
You do.
in the church right there
You
at the
do.
board at the table.
You do.
And that's an opportunity
Yeah.
to mentor them, to
100%.
equip them,
100%.
like the Bible calls us to do.
Yes.
And also in that equipping,
Yeah.
I think what happens to a leader, I know it happens to me when somebody that I'm with who I might be over equips me, it honors me. It says,
Does.
you are important
Absolutely.
to this enterprise. You're important to what
Absolutely.
we're doing. I'm going to
Absolutely.
pour something into you.
Yes.
And so that really helps, I think, in how they feel about what they do.
Absolutely. One of the things that I know some places where we go wrong sometimes is when we have ego, or when we have kind of that domineering style that we were talking about. And there are a couple of practical things that I learned. I went to this one leadership where they used the acronym Q-tip. Quit taking it personal.
I like it.
And everyone had to put a little Q-tip right above their little door lever to just remind them, no matter what happens, don't take it personal. But in those leadership opportunities, when we talk about empowering, one of the things that I did learn in the education space that I brought over to our church is an analysis sometimes referred to, and this is a little dark and a little heavy, but it's referred to as a post-mortem analysis. And here's what you do. You plan something like a program, and then you ask yourself, if this program was not going to be successful, or if something were going to kill this program, what would it be? And you list out all those things, understanding that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. And once you start to list out those things that can make a program go wrong, sometimes miscommunication, not bringing the right folks in, competing initiatives going on, then what you do is you list out all the ways that you're going to mitigate that so that it doesn't go wrong. That's an example of sometimes identifying in church that competing initiatives and competing agendas are getting in the way of your church being healthy or moving forward.
Yeah.
What's causing sometimes our churches to be on life support, right, is those opportunities where we're competing and not working all together, when the body was designed for every organ to work in harmony. And so God designed the church the exact same way.
You keep talking like that, I'm going to have two Q-tips.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to need more Q-tips to remind me.
And
You
it's hard.
Because you can really take that personal
Yes.
if you're not careful.
It is hard. It is hard especially when someone says something that maybe is hurtful, or some
area of your leadership that you're leading.
100%. And it's hard not to take it personal. One of the things that I do personally is I begin to recognize that if our plants and bushes and trees and God's creation need both sunshine and rain in order to grow, we need the same thing as leaders. And I just pray, God, I don't want too much sunshine. It'll dry me out. But I also don't want too much rain. Can you give me the California weather of mainly sunshine with a little bit of rain that keeps us on our knees?
Yeah, I moved from Oregon, so I want to move down here, and I want more sunshine. But yeah, absolutely, I hear what you're saying, and
Love that.
That's important. Which really kind of brings us to our core of empowering leadership, and that brings us back to your illustration of the guard. It brings us to the posture of leadership.
Yes.
And it's the posture of leadership is humility.
Yes. Yes.
Of a leader that really is leading, empowering others.
Yes.
You have to, I remember thinking to myself, if I ever had a church staff, which when I didn't, I said, if I ever have a church staff, I want to make sure that I'm the best leader.
Yes.
Later on, I grew into understanding that I'd rather have a staff that could take my place.
Yes.
That's better than me in many areas.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
that humility
100%.
of empowering people.
100%.
So
100%.
how do you see that in your local church? I mean, there's probably people you work with, professionals that are better at some things than you are,
100%.
right?
100%. One of the ways that I think about that is one, I think sometimes we go off course in the way we define leadership. Sometimes we define the leader as the person who knows it all or knows everything
Exactly.
or knows what to do. And even when we don't know what to do as leaders, we may be an
We make it
imposter,
up.
right? We may be in imposter mode,
Yes,
trying to
exactly.
appear to be the quote unquote leader. I took this again from this space of education, and it's this. To shift from thinking of the leader as the person who knows it all, to shift to being the person who is the lead learner.
That's good.
And when you shift to being the lead learner, you recognize that all of us are learning, and I have a responsibility to lead in what we're up to learning about.
Yeah.
And that sometimes relaxes that expectation just enough so that I understand that it's okay for someone to have expertise in an area that I don't have expertise in. It's okay for someone to recognize that I'm still growing in this area. One of the things that I'll just bring into the conversation is Lencioni, in his book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team,
Correct. Yeah,
talks
good book.
about an excellent area of trust. And he doesn't talk about trust as predictable trust. Your patterns of behavior are so predictable that I
Yes.
trust you to do what you always do. He talks about it from a perspective of vulnerability trust. Am I willing to be vulnerable? Am I willing to share with my team, hey, I'm still growing in that area. Why don't we test some things out and look at the results that it gets us? But it's not until you get to that place of not just humility, but where can I find those spaces of vulnerability where I can share with my team, hey, this isn't my area of strength. I can see the big picture. I can see the vision,
Yes.
but sometimes I miss the details.
Yeah.
But my head elder,
Don't talk about me like that.
well,
No.
my head elder, she does not miss one
One
detail.
I love it.
So
I love it.
I would not be effective if I were not surrounded by
Yes.
team members who are detail oriented, where I see the forest, here is where we're heading, but she sees the trees.
Yeah.
Watch out so you don't hit your
Yeah.
head on this tree or that tree. And so that way of balancing and being the lead learner is a way that I've defined leadership that makes it okay for me not to know it all,
Yeah.
but to be taking steps with the team as we grow.
Yeah. And we have one of our values in our conference office
Yeah.
is integrity with transparency.
Yes.
And that transparency
Yes.
is that vulnerability.
Yes.
Be open to who you are.
Yeah.
You make mistakes. Integrity doesn't mean you never make mistakes. It means
Right.
I don't have to cover them up.
100%.
You know, I have this
100%.
integrity with people that I have a transparency and a
Yes.
vulnerability
Yeah.
that I do my best. But if I would admit,
100%.
or I would admit, hey, I don't know the details. I missed that
Yes.
detail.
And let me just say, there is no greater transparency than pastoring at the church that you grew up in. Because they
That's right. That's where you're pastoring, is it?
They
The church
saw-
you grew up in.
They have seen you at your highs. They've seen you at your lows, right? And that's all of our journeys.
Yeah.
We go through hills and we go through valleys, but we declare that the Lord is our shepherd, and we follow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very much so.
Yeah.
Talk about the Lord being the shepherd.
Yes.
What's the difference between being an owner and a steward leader?
Yes.
Because there's even a book called Steward Leader.
There is.
And so what's the difference, you think?
Yeah, I really see that key difference as an owner believes that the thing belongs to them. And a steward understands that this doesn't belong to me, but I've been given the responsibility to guide it. I don't get confused in that, not only as a pastor, but also as a parent. My children have been gifted to me to be a good steward, to train them in the way that God has. And churches are the exact same way. We don't own our church, it's God's church, but we've been given stewardship. And that comes with some pros and some cons. It comes with some pros because it means that we have to consult, we have to work in teams, we have to empower others, we have to share leadership and share responsibility, understanding that I have a responsibility in my role, but whether you're an elder or a deacon or a part of the pastoral team, you also have a responsibility and their shared accountability there. The con there, which I think is the greatest blessing, is because I don't own it, I can go to the owner and share that I need some help. And so I can get on my knees and say, God, this is your church. These are your people.
You promised to give us wisdom.
You promised to give us wisdom. God, strengthen me in my
Absolutely.
patience. Strengthen me in my listening skills. Strengthen me in where I've been taking it personal.
Yeah.
And I have to understand that, God, because I'm a steward,
Yeah.
I can talk to you
Yep.
and I can draw strength in that conversation.
Yeah. Everything, the outcomes, they're your outcomes.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to pour into the people.
Absolutely.
That's the role you gave me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. Let's go a little deeper. One of the marks of empowering leadership is multiplication of leaders.
Yes.
So why do you think some leaders struggle so much to release responsibility? You have accountability
Mhm.
and responsibility, right? They're different.
Yeah.
And sometimes we hold people accountable for something without giving them the responsibility, don't you?
Yeah.
Don't we?
We
So
do.
why are we so afraid of letting go of responsibility, you think?
That's such a great question, and there is an African proverb that I'm sometimes mindful of. It says this. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
It is that going together that forces us to share in responsibility, in equipping, in sometimes that perfectionist wants us to create things that are perfect. They want things to be perfect, but it's actually when you understand that even in the mistakes, we learn. That you begin to understand that I can let go of that control and I can create conditions for us to test something out and then to step back to look at what we've learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so a part of our leadership councils, which is that ministry leadership group, is after we do something, whether it's an evangelistic effort, we sit back and we say, what went well? What could we learn from this?
Q-tips.
What can we learn from this?
Yeah.
What went wrong? Not from a blame standpoint,
Right. From a learning.
but from a learning standpoint, what might we want to implement? Where did we miss it in our communication or in our coordination? And what tools might we use, or who might be the perfect person to help us in that gap area? It is understanding that we are interdependent, that we are one body, and this arm isn't better than this leg. We need both to have mobility and to move us forward.
Yeah. There really are more ways to do things too.
Yes.
We think sometimes as a leader, I think my way, I know how to do it.
Yeah.
But if I release it,
Yeah.
sometimes people can come up with ideas that you never dreamed of.
100.
And you could say, whoa,
100%.
I never ever thought of that. So
Yeah.
there's that side of it too, that
It is.
they might make you go faster. Sometimes maybe you'll go slower,
Yes.
but you'll get there if you do
Yes.
it together. I like that.
I love that. Sometimes I think of it as a leader, I look at it as to, for, and with. As a leader, am I doing something to people? As a leader, am I doing something for people? Or as a leader, am I doing something with people?
Yeah.
And it is the being with that causes us to slow down. And that's where team and team ministry, which I believe is the only way to go, really thrives.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. What does it really look like to develop people in a local church, to develop other leaders in a church? Do you have a leadership plan?
Absolutely. So the first is structures and systems. And so as I shared, one, looking at your data, analyzing what's actually happening in the church. Where are we strong? Where are we, not as strong? Sometimes we call it a SWOT analysis.
Right.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats. So it is doing that type of analysis. And then it's also knowing where you can push. Let me give you an example. At Philadelphian, we say that we're the church where love hopes, love heals, and love helps. And it sounds like we're just using words, but we're actually describing a process. So what we mean is hope should happen in our worship when the Holy Spirit touches you. And our worship services are not successful based on how many people come. It is successful based on, was there evidence that the Holy Spirit moved? Helping is where we believe fellowship and discipleship are cultivated. Healing is where we believe fellowship and discipleship are cultivated. So healing happens, transformation happens through getting with others. We overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and by getting deeper into the word. Helping is that evangelism and that service. So a practical example is knowing that our mission is where love hopes, heals, and helps. We challenged all of our ministry leaders to incorporate either healing or helping into their ministry. Our deaconess in particular said, hey, we help clean, we help set up, we serve, we have a role in communion, but outside of that, our ministry stops there. And we challenged our deaconess and our deacons in each one of our ministries. What could it look like to be more evangelistic or to provide more service as a ministry?
Yeah.
And then I asked this powerful question to my head deaconess. I said, what makes you upset? Like, what really makes you angry? And she says, one of the things that makes me angry or makes me discouraged or disappointed is when we have individuals in some of our nursing homes that don't get visits.
Okay.
And I said, whenever God allows you to be upset by seeing something, it's because God also wants you to do something about it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want you to just be mad. He wants you to do something about it. What do you believe God is encouraging you to do about it? And she said, I think I'm going to take ministry to our nursing care facilities. I said, well, what could that look like? What could it look like for you to call them and to find out? Here we are many years later, and we take worship to 2 of our skilled nursing homes. But get this, the activities director who schedules for churches to come in, that activities director was so impressed by God speaking to her in that she got baptized, and she's an active member in our church.
Evangelism came up.
And so when we push our leaders to really develop and to stretch, and then we're strategic in, hey, if this is upsetting you, God wants you to make a difference in that space. And then you create the opportunity and allow that to lead into ministry. And now our deaconess are the ones who are leading the charge in our nursing homes and feeling really like they're walking in that purpose when we think of what we were designed to do in the Bible.
Exactly. I think I believe that too, because I think God has given everybody gifts and strengths. And when you're bothered by something, that means your gift sees something, your strengths see something.
Yeah.
And you notice it's not there. Those who aren't in that area, they don't notice.
Yeah.
But you do. And so God is speaking right to your heart. If instead of criticizing, you say,
right,
what should I do?
What do I do?
That's a tough question, but what should I do?
Absolutely. If it upsets you, then the expectation is that I'm going to do something to change that or to make a difference in that space.
So as a leader, how would you discern if somebody's ready to do some leadership?
That is a great question, because one, we have to remember that churches are hospitals. So everybody's dealing with something. We also know that sometimes hurt people can hurt people. One of the key things that I look for in readiness is the difference when I'm listening to someone do a reflection on what went right and what went wrong, and what we call window statements versus mirror statements. When individuals reflect on their leadership, things that went right or things that went wrong, do they typically blame others and make window statements? Do they look out and make excuses and a lot of blame? Or do they get in the mirror and say, here is what I could have done differently? The more people are willing to take responsibility, the more responsibility we're able to give. That idea of that personal responsibility and that reflection component. As human beings, we're going to make mistakes. But when I'm able to reflect, learn, when I'm quick to apologize, and when I can act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God, those are the traits that tell me that individuals can be trusted with other individuals.
Responsibilities. Yeah, good. So let's kind of move on to, leadership.
Yeah.
We found out so far that leadership is Christ-centered in its
Yes.
posture. And,
It is.
And it's character-driven and not ego-driven. There's a posture of humility that really underlies good steward leadership. And it's a shared leadership, not like a lone ranger.
Right.
There's no lone rangers in God's church. You know?
Right.
We're a team. And then we said ultimately it's leadership that equips others for ministry. So let's talk about this a little bit about challenges of leadership, because I think there's some big challenges that happens, and once in a while you could be challenged in leadership, right?
Woo!
It's not always easy.
Yes.
So what are some of the biggest barriers to empowering leadership in churches today?
I think one of the biggest barriers personally is conflict resolution. I think too often, whether we exercise a natural avoidance, because we don't handle conflicts healthy or successfully, or because we ignore them, we try to move on without them. One of the things that I'll just say I learned as I was working in the space of leadership and negotiation is there's a book entitled Getting to Yes. And it's specifically how do we take individuals who may be at odds or have differing perspectives, and how might we get them to yes? And in that book, they tell this story of a mother who had two girls. They're fighting over an orange. It's the last orange in the house. The mother sees them go from yelling at each other to getting sort of physical. The mother snatches the orange, cuts it in half, gives each one of them a half, and tells them to go to their room. Girl one goes to her room. She eats the orange and throws the peel in the trash. Girl two goes to her room, takes the inside of the orange, throws it in the trash, and takes the peel, shaves it because she needed that peel for her science experiment. And the book makes the point that if the mom would have just asked them why they wanted the orange in the first place, both of them could have gotten the whole thing instead of the half.
It's a good story.
It's
Really
what
illustrates it well.
win-win looks like. Here's another example of that practically. We knew that we were doing some remodeling at the church, but because we had done that post-mortem sort of analysis, we knew that one of the places that we were going to go wrong is everyone bringing their own cultural style, the colors that they like, to make our church look just like their home. Well, we knew that that could be something that could be contentious. And so what we decided to do was, instead of choosing one person or another or getting into power struggles, we hired a professional designer to come in and present us some colors and some thoughts based on the way we wanted the church to feel: warm, mission-driven, a church where hope, love, where love hopes, heals, and helps. And that designer giving us options, one, took the attention off of any one of us as leaders and put it completely on the designer, which we could say, hey, go back to the drawing board, bring us some more options.
We don't like it.
Or we could vote on those two options. And in every situation, we voted on those two options. And the way we were able to just make progress as a church far exceeded because one, we were intentional. Two, we had good conflict resolution skills. And three, we thought about what could become a conflict, and we thought about how we might mitigate those. So sometimes when you really concentrate on what it takes to get people to yes, and we step in and exercise Matthew 18 when we need to, that good conflict resolution helps keep teams working together as teams.
Yeah, that's very good. You're focusing on teams, but you're focusing on really anticipating
Yes.
some of the problems
Yes.
that could happen, right?
Yes.
And walking into there with solutions even before there's a problem.
Yes. And let me just say, that's not just a lesson that I've learned in leadership. That's also a lesson that I've learned in my personal life. It's what's kept me married for 23 years. How could this possibly go wrong? Let me what my wife say about this, right?
Yeah.
Brings me back to the table every time,
Yeah.
and I've learned how to get to yes, and I've learned a different level of love when you walk. I think being a pastor, being a parent, being a husband, all of those teach us a different aspect of God's love.
Well, we've been going a while here.
Yeah.
And I think I probably bring things to a close. But before we do, just some practical takeaways that we might, maybe some, like several points we could make. Like, what's one shift a leader should make this week to become more empowering? If you're a leader out there, what's one thing I could do so I could be more empowering as a leader?
Yeah. The first thing that I would encourage is some personal reflection. The first thing that I have to confront is what's stopping me from working in teams. Might it be mistrust? Might it be a harm that had occurred in the past? Might it be unforgiveness? So I want to always start with getting in the mirror and saying, God, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit.
Going back to the mirror in the window.
100%. And then secondly, where are some opportunities to invite individuals in for partnership? Where could we hand off?
Good.
Where can I begin to say what is really important, what is moderately important, and what are some things that I could release control in? What are some things that I could have folks partner together, and that just moves things forward together. Inviting individuals to come in, be a part of it, contribute to it, I think are some immediate things, while also confronting maybe an area that I need to grow in, like unforgiveness or trust. Once I trust and I remember I'm a steward, God is the owner.
Yeah, good. What's one mistake a leader needs to avoid if they want to be an empowering leader?
One mistake that I think we need to avoid is assumptions.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we are not clear. We don't start with clarity. And here is some work that I borrowed again, because I'm a big picture person. Sometimes I may give you the big picture, but I may leave out the details. I have to ask my team, hey, as I'm talking about this, please ask me some detail-oriented questions. I may have some things that I'm seeing in my mind, but it may not be coming out. So a mistake that we can make is, one, communicating, believing just because I said something, the other person heard what I meant, as opposed to the words that I use, that they may be taken in a completely different direction.
Yeah, here's something totally different.
So that opportunity to check in and ask individuals, what did you hear me say? And then 2, are there any details that I may have left out that might be important? I don't want to assume anything. Help set each other up for success.
Yeah, assumptions, they bite.
They always come back to harm.
They really do.
In some way. And I'm so thankful we get to do communion every 13 weeks.
There you go. Communion's for assumptions we make.
100%. 100%.
So how do you, one more question, how do you build a
Sure.
culture where people expect to be equipped? They have an anticipation to be equipped and be sent.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to build into the culture the expectation that we are disciples, that we're followers of Christ, and we all have a responsibility to work in our gifts. Some individuals are persons, and we want them on the front lines being our greeters and our ushers. Other individuals are not quite as skilled with folks, and great, we have a role for you too. We want you counting the tithe and the offering. No offense to anyone who's counting tithe and offering. That's a job for everyone. But the first thing we have to do is, again, understand that like a battleship, we all have a role. And the most important thing that we want to do is walk in our purpose, understanding that a lot of times the things that upset us are the areas that God is gifting us some expertise to make a difference in. So those are some ways that we can begin to build into the culture, the expectations that as all disciples and followers of Christ, we all have a role to build in the kingdom.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Before we go, one more question. What encouragement could you give to a leader who may be feeling a bit tired, stretched, maybe even discouraged?
Yeah. I would encourage them to go to some scripture that reminds us, 1, don't be weary in well-doing. Secondly, not by might nor by power, but by your spirit. And then I would also encourage them with the story of Chinese bamboo. The quick version of it is this. You can plant Chinese bamboo in your garden. You can come back to it after a month. It's only going to be an inch above the surface. You can come back a year, 2 years, 3 years, even the 4th year, and it'll still only be an inch above the surface. But somewhere about 4.5 years, it grows at an average of almost 20 to 18 inches, 18 to 20 inches a day.
I didn't know that. I threw my Chinese bamboo away.
Don't do that. And it'll actually grow to 80 to 90 feet tall. And the question will be, well, what was happening in those 4 years that I was watering it and cultivating it and praying for it and what fertilizing it? What happened in those years? And what you learn in Chinese bamboo is, in order to sustain that level of growth of 80 to 90 feet, all those years that you didn't think anything was happening, it was creating an intricate root system to sustain that type of growth. And so the growth was happening underground and you couldn't see it. And overnight, all of a sudden, it shoots up into the air and doesn't move. And sometimes God has to remind us that when we think nothing is happening, when we're ready to throw in the towel, when we're ready to dig it up and say, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, we have to remember that God is creating an intricate root system. If I'm feeling discouraged, I'm the perfect person to minister to people who are discouraged. If I'm feeling like I'm ready to throw in the towel, I'm the perfect person to minister to individuals who are ready to throw in that towel. And so I would just simply say, don't give up on God, because he won't give up on us.
I love it.
Stay with it. Take a lesson from Chinese bamboo and know that it's not by might nor by power, but by his spirit.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it so much. What a great advice.
Thank you for having me.
A story I didn't know about bamboo.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, I need to get bamboo after 4 or 5 years.
Yes. Plant it, but just know you're not going to really see it take off.
It's an amazing illustration. I think it's so true.
Yeah.
So thank you very much
Yeah.
and for being my guest.
Yeah. Sometimes our blessing is right around the corner.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Our hope and prayer is that churches across Southern California Conference will continue to grow as spiritually thriving communities with flourishing faith, caring for their communities and inspiring individuals to grow in and share Christ's love. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Cultivate podcast. Remember, leadership in the kingdom of God is not about how many followers you have. It's about how many you prepare to lead. God is not going to work through you only. He wants to work through all of us. So keep empowering people to work with God in leadership. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we invite you to share it with others, and we'd love to hear from you. So reach out to us on social media at SEC Adventists and let us know how you are working in your church and how this podcast may have impacted you. As we go, remember these words. He who began the good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Until next time, let's continue to exalt Christ by cultivating healthy churches and schools.